Hi, my friends. David Hayward, your Naked Pastor here. So, I want to just hop on here and just give a short talk about leaving community, leaving the church community, and how difficult that is. I know I've done it a few times, and the last time I left the church was in 2010, and I left the ministry in March of 2010. Gee, that's 12 years ago, 13, coming up 13 years now. And because of the circumstances, we also left the church. And I'll tell you, it was really, really, really difficult. And if you've left the church, you know a little bit about what I'm talking about, maybe. Now, for us, here's the thing. We've always, well, except for when we were in the Presbyterian church, when we were in the ministry, we gravitated towards really a strong sense of community. And we eventually ended up in the Vineyard Church, where we experienced sort of like a really tight kind of a family feel, and our whole lives were taken up with the church and church activity and church people. And this happens a lot in evangelicalism, and especially in like Pentecostal, charismatic, miracle believing, end time believing communities, apocalyptic communities, where you get really sort of tight, and it has a real family feel, and it's just very intense. So that's kind of the angle I'm coming from right now, is that whole sense of we didn't just leave church, where we went for 1 hour on a Sunday morning and are devastated and can't get over it. No, I'm talking about leaving a kind of church that is your whole life. It totally consumes everything about your life, so that your friends were there. If you were in the ministry, your salary was there, your income, your upon which your home depended, your food, taking care of your family and your wife and kids, or husband and kids, whatever the case may be, and your sense of meaning, purpose, destiny, your support was there, prayer support, people bringing you food when you were sick, visiting you, thinking about you, activities during the week, Bible study, home group, whatever, worship practice, everything, your potluck suppers, the donuts and coffee on Sunday mornings, like everything you did was completely consumed by the church and taken up in the church. So that when you leave that, it's devastating. I know, I was there, I did that. The last time we left the ministry in 2010, it was absolutely devastating, because that's exactly what we left. Our whole lives were taken up with the church. Everything about our lives was invested in the church. I'm talking everything. And when we left that, it was like complete chaos, complete devastation, complete trauma. It was just a cataclysmic kind of event. We didn't just leave the church, with the Sunday morning meeting or whatever. We left a whole way of life behind. So that's what I'm talking about here, is that kind of church. And I'm sure many of you can identify with what I'm talking about. That can happen like in evangelical churches, yes, Baptist kind of churches too, where I think it's rooted in the basic theology that the world is bad and unbelievers can't be trusted, and you can't have fellowship with them unless it's just absolutely necessary. But you marry inside your belief system. Your friends are all within your belief system, and probably even going to the same church. Everything, all your relationships are inside the church and that belief system. Maybe other churches that are like yours, but yeah, that's the kind of trauma I'm talking about, where you you leave behind an entire way of life and a whole network, all the fellowship, all the friendship, all the love, all the support and everything. So that's what I'm talking about. When we did that in 2010, it took us a few years, and you know what? It's going on 13 years later, and we're still figuring things out. So I'm going to talk about that now, just for a few moments, because I have thought about this a lot. When we left the ministry, it was devastating. Lisa went to university. She was 48 years old. She decided, well, my kids are gone. You know, they've left home. They're grown up and gone. You know, we no longer have the church activities to keep us busy. I'm going to go to university and become a nurse. And she did that. She went to university full time, started at 48. She graduated when she was 52 as a nurse. And so she was busy at the university, taking full-time courses, and then preceptoring in the hospital and, you know, all the stuff. Now she's a hospice care nurse in a hospice home, Bobby's Hospice here in St. John, New Brunswick. But so she was busy. She was busy with her studies. She was busy with part-time work too on the side, on the weekends. She took care of an elderly woman and stayed with her over the weekends. And she had made her own friends with fellow students and peers. And so she had her own life. I didn't have a life. What I did was I applied to teach at a local university here, and I ended up getting a job at that university for about 2 years, where I taught English as a second language to international students who were wanting to improve their English. And I taught Canadian business and English to mostly Saudis and other Arabic countries and people from the Middle East to Asia, other parts, and South America, etc., who wanted to improve their English so that they could enter into their master's level of business. And so I did that until that job ended, and I was like all by myself. I had a few friends with teachers and so on and students, but man, after I left that, I was like, I invested into NakedPastor full time to see if I could make that a full-time gig, which has worked out miraculously. Not miraculously, I worked my ass off and got it to where it is today, where I'm making a living from my art, my cartoons, my books, my speaking, you know, etc. But I still miss the community. Lisa and I still miss the community of the church. And we tried different things. We would try different clubs or groups or whatever, and I'm not going to name them all, and I'm going to name some that I didn't necessarily try but thought of. But, you know, I did try Toastmasters, and I tried CrossFit, the gym, and I tried different other things. There's outdoors groups, running groups, hiking groups. Yeah, I just looked around for different, but you know, these different groups that I went to just didn't feel the same. Like, it just didn't have the same vibe as the church. So like when you went to CrossFit, you just talked about health and fitness, like fanatically, just health and fitness and so on. And then with Toastmasters, it was public speaking, and you know, the fact that I used to be a pastor and everything was kind of an anomaly, and the whole concept of being totally wrapped up in other people's lives and them being wrapped up totally in your life would not make sense to them. So there was a sense that you could join a club and talk about that, but it wasn't like the church where you could talk about almost everything or anything. And because that's the way the church where I was functioned, where it meant your entire life. You could talk about your kids, you could talk about your marriage, you could talk about your own personal struggles, you could talk about you know, other relationships, you could talk about the struggles with work, you could talk about money, you could talk about how you should eat. You could talk about how you should read and what your friends should be like, and everything about your life could be discussed in that in the confines of the church, because the church demanded the kind of religion I was a part of, the kind of Christianity I was a part of, demanded 100% sovereignty over everything in your life. Nothing could be excluded. That would be wrong. Like, everything had to be included. And so that's what got me thinking. It's like, wait a minute, I really miss that intensity of intimacy in a community. But maybe it wasn't healthy. Maybe it's not natural. That's why it's not out there everywhere. Maybe it's not good for you, and smart people stay away from stuff like that because they know it's not good for you. It's not healthy. I started wondering about that. And then I remember watching some documentaries on cults. I watched one about a cult leader in Hawaii. I think CNN put that one on. I saw a couple documentaries on cults on Netflix. I saw the one about the West or something. Is that with Osho? And different other documentaries on cults and people who've left cults or escaped from cults. And to a T, without fail, many of them were in tears. They missed that community so much. They missed the intensity of intimacy that they experienced in these cults. And I thought, that's what I'm feeling. But they're missing a cult. Even though they were getting robbed and sexually assaulted and raped and signing over all their possessions and being cut off from their families and friends, and even though all that really horrible stuff was happening to them, they still missed that community. I thought, there's something there about that. I don't think I was a part of a cult, but it was very cultish, very cult-like, in that the intensity of intimacy was a part of the bargain. It was a part of the deal. It was like, you want this intensity of intimacy? Great, sign up. But we're gonna fuck you up. Like, excuse my language there, but that's, you want that intensity of intimacy, it comes with a cost. You're gonna lose objectivity. You're gonna lose some of your family and friends. They're gonna wonder what's happened to you. You're going to lose some of your possessions. The amount of money I gave, tithing and offering and so on. You're going to lose autonomy. You're going to lose some of your own personal sovereignty. Like, you're going to be violated in many ways and mistreated and abused, spiritually abused as well. And this is just what comes with it. That intensity of intimacy, this is what comes with it. And that's an observation from my own life. And that's my observation from other people who have spoken to me, where they're like, you're right. Like, the intensity of intimacy was amazing, and I miss that so much, but oh my God, I was abused and used and violated, and I was like a slave. I lost my mind. I lost my objectivity. I lost relationships. I lost, I became a part of an enclave. I became a part of a closed, very closed kind of a ghettoed group where everything happened there, and I lost everything else. And now that I left that, there's nothing. And I feel like I'm starting from scratch. this is what I want to leave with you. I'm going to be talking more about community and about how to regain that sense of fellowship in your life and friendship. But I just wanted to address this fact that what we're missing, that strong sense of fellowship and that strong intensity of intimacy, probably wasn't good for us. It's kind of like the sugar on bad medicine. Sugar coating. It tastes good, it feels good, but something is being delivered underneath the surface that's not good for us. I've yet to see, really, honestly, I've yet to see, I experienced that many times in my own life. And so you're probably thinking, why do you gravitate towards those kind of communities? Good question. And maybe we should ask ourselves that. Why, and maybe you should ask yourself, why do I gravitate towards that kind of intensity of intimacy? Like, what need am I trying to meet? What is it that I want? And why am I so willing to give myself up in order to have it? And so I think that's where I want to leave us right now is with that question. Like, why did I need that so much? Why did I enjoy it so much, even though it cost me so much? And I think if we can explore that, understand ourselves a little better, and see that that was actually the dynamic that was going on, I think we would learn a lot. And then we can readjust our need, our desire. We can readjust and say, okay, yeah, you're right. You know what? I don't want to look for that again. I want healthy relationships where I don't have to sacrifice myself or lose myself, but I can be my fullest self, my most authentic self, my free, autonomous, sovereign self. That's the kind of relationship I'm looking for. No longer this cult-like, cultish kind of community that sucks me dry, right? So think about that. And thanks for listening. I hope this might maybe turn the light on for you on the whole community thing and the sense that we missed something so much that wasn't good for us. That's natural, right? That's natural. That happens all the time, where even though something was really bad for us, we miss it. Talk to any addict, right? And I think that's what was going on. We were addicted to a kind of community that feel that really, in the long run, wasn't good for us. Much love, my friends. Serious, deep thoughts, I know, but I think if we can really deal with this honestly, we'll be on our way to having healthy and happy relationships. Love you. Bye.